Okay, so good evening. Tonight we are covering Aseret hadibrot, dibra shalosh, dibra number 3, part 2. So just to recap what we did in our last lesson, we learned that swearing in vain using Hashem's name is uh, is really something very serious. It's an avera that cannot be forgiven. So, in this lesson, we're going to learn only people who are tzaddikim are allowed to swear, such as Abraham, Yosef, Eov, David. These are people, and there were a few more that we know that they were tzaddikim, and they allowed themselves to swear. But they allowed themselves to swear only because they had always been very careful when they were using their words. They were very careful about their speech. Before I go any further, I just would like to explain a concept here. Some of us may think, okay, big deal. So someone swore. What's the big deal about it? It's only words. Well, Chachamim explained to us that it's not just words. When Hashem created the world, how did He create it? Vayomer, just by speech, by words. So by using words correctly, Hashem was able to create an entire world. By the same token, someone who uses words incorrectly can destroy an entire world. So this is really the foundation of the lesson, about using our words properly. Chachamim explain that how come Abraham, Yosef, Eov, David, and many other tzaddikim were swearing using Hashem's name. And the only way they could have done that is only because they had devekut b'Hashem, because they were attaching themselves to Hashem, because they were so careful with the mitzvot, every aspect of any and every single mitzvah. They were so careful with how they were performing the mitzvot. Their life was a life of Torah, and they attached themselves to Hashem, meaning following the Torah very carefully, and to Chachamim, and supporting them. Only then such a person can swear using Hashem's name. So we are not allowed to swear using Hashem's name in vain, even if it's the truth. We should avoid swearing. Even when it's the truth, we should avoid swearing, because you might forget a detail that would make the swearing false. There may be a detail maybe that you forgot about, that you're going to swear, and only later on you might remember, or you might even not remember, oh, but that was about this and that. But it would be too late already. So, Shevuat Sheker, a false oath. This kind of Shevuah, right there, so there are a few types of Shevuot. So, a false oath, this kind of Shevuah is worse than Shevuat Shav, is worse than Shevuah, an oath that is in vain. Shevuat Sheker, which is a false oath, is also included in the commandment of Lo tisat Hashem et Shem Hashem Elokecha lashav. Do not take up the name of Hashem, do not pronounce Hashem's name in vain. So we learn in Zechariah Hanavi, he taught us that there is a special punishment for one who swears falsely, more severe than for the punishment for a vain oath. Whoever swears falsely, Hashem said, I will curse his house. The curse will stay in the house. It means the curse will stay, it will never be removed. It will destroy it. It will even actually destroy the physical house, the stones, the timber, whatever is inside that house. And the same applies to someone who makes a false claim against his neighbor. And they go to court, right? And because of the false claim, the neighbor is making a shevuah in front of the judge. He's swearing, right? The curse now falls on him, on the one who made the false shevuah, the false oath, because he caused his neighbor to swear. So look how Chachamim and the Torah is actually teaching us to be so very careful with our words. Now Chachamim go on and tell us there are three types of false oath, false shevuot. Shevuat bituy. There's a swear that is a lie. For example, he swears that he has done something which he actually did not do it. Or the other way around. He swears he did not do something, but he actually did it, right? Such an oath can also involve the future. For example, he can say, I swear that I will do it, or I swear I will not do it. That's the future, right? All these cases, in all these cases, this person is considered a sinner, a hoteh, because his shevuah, his oath, involved deceit, lying, cheating. The second type of shevuah, the shevuat, which is shevuat pikadon, that is, a pikadon is, let's say, I'm coming to a neighbor and I say, here, could you please take care of my coat until I come and I get it back from you? And she said, yes, of course. I said, please be very careful with it, okay? It's an expensive coat. Please be careful. She says, yes, I will. That's already considered a shevuah. Okay? And actually, we have a story about Shlomo HaMelech, that Shlomo HaMelech, in the time of Shlomo HaMelech, there was a widow who, she was well off, and she owned some gold pieces, a lot of gold pieces. And she was going to go away for a long time, for about a year or so, to visit her relatives. And she said to herself, I don't want to take all this money with me, but I cannot just lock up the house and just leave it in the house. What if someone breaks in? So what did she do? She took her gold. She put it in, she spread it into a few jars. And then she filled up the jars with honey. She sealed them. And then she went to the neighbor. And she said to the neighbor, please, I'm going away for a long time, for about a year or more. Could you take care of my honey? Just take care of it until I come back. The neighbor said, sure, no problem. I'll take care of it. That's a shevuah. So she left. She had peace of mind that her neighbor is taking care of her honey, and in the honey is her gold. And she went, she spent her time, about a year or so, with her relatives, her children, brothers, sisters, siblings. It took about a year until she came back. So as soon as she came back, right away, she went to the neighbor. And she said to the neighbor, I would like, could you please give me back my honey? The neighbor said, your honey? What are you talking about? She said, yeah. Before I left, I gave you 4 jars of honey, big jars. And they were this color. And they were full of honey. And they were sealed. I need my honey back. Please give me back my honey. And he started to get very angry at her. And he said, how dare you? We have been neighbors for so long, and you can't, you're telling me you gave me honey? He denied completely. She didn't know what to do. She went home and she was crying and she was crying. And for days, she didn't know what to do with herself. until she had an idea. She said, well, I'll go to the king. It's the king's job to judge us. So I'm going to go to the king, and I'm going to tell him to judge my case. And so she made an appointment to go to the king. And the day came when she was supposed to come to the king, and a neighbor also was sent for to come to the king. And they both came. And the king said, okay, tell me your story. And she said, here, about a year ago, I left. Or before I left, I had golden coins. I didn't want to leave them in the house. I didn't want to take them with me. So I put those golden coins in jars, in 4 jars. I spread them in 4 jars. And then I poured honey into them, and then I sealed those jars. And then I went to my neighbor, and I told him, I asked him if he could take care of it, and he told me, yes, he will. He took those jars. So when I came back, I asked him for my jars back, and he got very upset with me, and he refused to give them back to me. And he's denying that he ever took from me the jars. Shlomo HaMelech says, okay, and what have you got to say? Nothing. She never gave me anything. She didn't give me any jars. I don't know what she's talking about. Shlomo HaMelech thought for a few moments, and he said, okay. He said to his guards, you're going to go to this man's house, go in all over the house, look everywhere, and see if you can find the jars and bring them here. So the soldiers, the guards went, they came back to them a few hours, they came back, sure enough, they had 4 jars. They opened them, there wasn't much honey. The neighbor did not know where to put himself. Shlomo HaMelech said, okay. He said to one guard, take one of the jars and throw it, break it. Everybody's looking around. Why? Why break a jar? Okay? So the guard came, he picked up the jar, and he really threw it onto the floor. It cracked open. Sure enough, at the bottom, there wasn't much honey in it. But at the bottom, there were still a few coins. So Shlomo HaMelech turns around now to the neighbor and says, what have you got to say? The neighbor didn't know what to say. But then the neighbor said, well, what happened is that one of his children got married, and because the child got married, they had to make the wedding, and one day his wife did not have enough honey, and she asked him, she said to him, what am I going to do? I need honey, I don't have enough honey, I'm stuck. So he said, oh, we have the honey from the neighbor, let's use her honey, and then we'll buy more honey and fill up the jars. And that's what he did. So he opened one jar, he started pouring out the honey. But as the honey was coming out, the coins were also coming out. So he said at that point already, he went and he just started pouring, and he was very happy about it. Then obviously Shlomo HaMelech said to him, now you have got to pay back this woman. This man had taken an oath. He had taken an oath. He had said, yes, I will take care, which is an oath. It's not using Hashem's name, but it is an oath. Obviously, he got the punishment he was supposed to get, but that's not really what we are here for, right? The whole story was just to tell you about how careful we have to be with our words. And the third type of oath is Shevuat HaEdot, oath of witnesses. So, what are witnesses? In the time of the Sanhedrin, in the time of the Bet HaMikdash, the time of Moshe, and all the time that Ben Israel lived in the desert. They had the Sanhedrin. Sanhedrin is what we call the highest court. In the Sanhedrin, there were 71 judges. Now, each one of these judges had to be a tzaddik. Each one of these judges had to really, really know Torah very, very, very well. And each one of them had to be able to speak, write, and read 70 languages. We know of one man who was the Rosh Sanhedrin. He was the president of the Sanhedrin. That was Mordechai in the story of Purim. And that's how Mordechai had been able to save the life of Achashverosh, because he heard Bigtan and Teresh, who were the gods of Achashverosh, he heard them plot against the life of the king. They were speaking not the language that the people of Shushan spoke. They were speaking a language from some faraway country that belonged to Achashverosh, and they were not worried about him, saying, this Jew, he doesn't understand our language. But they made a big mistake, because Mordechai heard everything and he understood everything. And then he told Esther, tell the king to be careful, because the next time when they serve him wine, it has poison in it. That's what they want to do. They want to poison the king. Esther went, told the king. The king, the next time, was served wine by these two, Bigtan and Teresh, these two guards. He asked for a dog to be brought, and he gave the dog the wine to drink. Right away, the dog died because it had been poisoned. How? Who found out? Mordechai found out, because Mordechai knew the language. So to belong to the Sanhedrin, you had to be a tzaddik, and you had to be able to speak, write, and read 70 languages. Altogether, there were 71 judges. So in the time of the Sanhedrin, one who made a false oath was flogged, whipping. The most they could get was 39. But even such a punishment does not take away completely the sin, the head of Lo Tisa et Shem Hashem Lashav. Because Hashem will not forgive. Hashem Lo Yenake. Hashem will not forgive one who swears using his name in vain. So in the time of the Kohen Gadol, in the time of the Bet HaMikdash, the Kohen Gadol used to offer a korban. That korban was called Seir HaMishtaleach. This korban, this sacrifice, was brought, would bring forgiveness to all of Ben Israel for all their sins, everything, except for the sin of Shevurat Shav, of an oath said in vain. The only way a person can be forgiven is by his own death, when the person dies, and after suffering. First Hashem brings suffering on this person, and then he dies. If a person swears in vain or falsely, constantly, because it's just a habit, that's the way he speaks, it is considered as if he has worshipped Avodah Zarah, idols. He removes himself from Yahadut, from Judaism, right? Someone who worships Avodah Zarah is removed. He's not really part of the whole community, because the community believes in Hashem and does not worship Avodah Zarah. And by such a person, why he is considered as if he has done Avodah Zarah, worshipping idols? Because it is as if he was denying Hashem's existence. Just as Hashem is true, so is my oath. That's what he says. And if he does not keep his oath, his Shevuah, it is as if he denies Hashem's existence. It is written in Devarim, in Sefer Devarim, that Before Hashem gave the Torah to Ben Israel, he presented the Torah to all nations of the world, all 70 nations. They refused the Torah. Why? Not because Hashem said, you have got to believe in me, that I am the creator, I'm the only one. That they believed. You know why they refused? Because Hashem said, you cannot kill, you cannot steal. Oh no, that's our way of life. We cannot exist without killing and stealing. Therefore, when a person swears falsely, he is no better than a kofer ba'ikar. He is no better than a non-believer. There is no simple forgiveness for this sin. Rabbi Avraham ibn Ezra, who lived in Spain, he lived at the time of Rashi. Rashi lived in France, but Rabbi Avraham ibn Ezra lived in Spain. He lived from 1089 to 1164. He was a very, very, very big chacham. And he explains that if a person swears by the life of the king that he will do or he will not do something, if the oath is false, the king will kill this person without mercy. There is no way that he can escape, even if he bribes the king with a whole treasure. The king won't forgive him. Why not? Because he has publicly denigrated the king's name. So how much more it is if someone swears falsely in Hashem's name. As we see, making an oath is not anything to take lightly. It is best to always say Beli neder, so whatever promise we make does not turn into an oath. It is forbidden to swear by one's own life, or cursing oneself is also considered an oath. Like some people say, may this and this happen to me if I do this or if I don't do that. An oath can be said in any language. A handshake is also considered an oath. So tomorrow we'll cover some more about this and maybe finish this topic. Sorry. May Hashem save us from making a shavua, an oath, whether it's true or false. And in the zechut of this class, may Hashem bless us with bracha, hatzlacha, nachat, shalom, parnasa tova, beriut, and zivugim.